Again, I will have the honor to play for Bob and his beautiful wife, Barbara. I'm not gonna talk so much. I just want to say that that my way of style of playing is not traditional playing, but my own style that I've picked up during my travel around the world. And it's not traditional rhythms or traditional playing.
To start off with the teachings is the two energy lines our people believe exist throughout the universe, which is the basis of our belief system and our relationship system. These two energy lines is there, whether you believe it or not, is irrelevant. That is too big. It's like the sun and the earth. It really affects it, but we cannot say anything about it or even explain it to the level of its explanation that's required. Because we are just like the moose, like the possums, like the trees. You know, we're just one of many of the children as children of the universe. It's that great. It's beyond. Okay, and it's just passed down to us from our elders. And constantly reinforced, and this is where the basis of my teachings come from, is these two. And I think you'll recognize it as coming from many indigenous beginning and even yours, through natural way of living, because it exists, and it isn't an issue of whether we believe it or not. It's irrelevant. It's just meaningless, because your opinion doesn't matter, neither does mine. It's that big. This is beyond humans' level of understanding. It's greater than that. And it affects all of our lives, these two lines. And the diagrams I'm showing here, I've used two snakes of energy, real energetic consciousness of real life. Combination of spiritual, physical, of all living. And what you have in this diagram, we were talking, a group came to Multijulo at Uluru, and they raised, Bob, what about your chakra? You Bob believe in chakra? I said, chakra? I said, what do you mean by chakra? He said, all these things, 7 of them, you know, and he drew and then I got a stick and I said, we got energy positions. I said, you mean that same one, energy, where we believe all things come and go, you know, everything is energy. The moment we think, you've started the vibration with energy. When you talk, you've made it a little bit stronger. And your responsibility gets bigger too, as you go. Thinking you can control it, you can hide your thoughts. So it's within self, that one. It's safe. We can hide that. But when you start talking, you're sharing with somebody. Because your sound is vibrating out and people listen to you. But then the action is the greatest one, because once that goes out, you're not going to put it back. It'll bring back its own fruit. And that's what we say, be very careful with what you're thinking, be more double careful with what you're saying, and be very, very careful with what you're doing. And these are the energy lines which when you ask for outcome, which is shared by this one. And this comes from, I think, most of the nations in Australia use this system that may not know about it. Because a lot of the nations got wiped out pretty quickly in the southern states. So what happened when I was stolen from my people in central Australia, I went up to Arnhem Land, and both places used this system. So I grew up immersed in this one. And what it does is it establishes you with a relationship that is so amazingly beautiful. Because every single one of us, through our conception and birth, through the spirit, when you were a child, the spirit child, you chose your parents, it chose which side of these you will be. That's how amazingly it comes from. It comes from that ultra spirit place where each and every one of you has come from. And I'll use the Arnhem Land 2 words for it. And you notice that snakes are going 2 different ways, opposite ways. But in this one here, where the boosting point is where contact is made. And when that contact is made, it energizes each other. They both get energized. And they help each other go to the next level. And it can't be stopped. Once it starts at the time of creation, it hasn't stopped. It can't stop until creation finishes. And there's none of us left to exist or survive. So this is the invisible energy of relationship which exists throughout the universe, and definitely throughout the world. And it comes right into self-place in Arnhem Land, where I was taught this one, and then knew about it too in Uluru. In Uluru, it only stays with the two lines, 1 and 2, me and you. That's it. Me and you. But from that me and you, it keeps multiplying. The Islander people got 8 systems, the Walpri has 12, and all the other nations got different numbers of systems, but it still goes back to 1 and 2, me and you. And ours in Arnhem Land is Yunto Ko Ngayolo in my country. Me and you. And in Arnhem Land is Yericha Dua. And one of those snake energy lines is responsible for practical looking after country. They're responsible to maintain the land. They do the earning of the people who come into that line of caring for country, care for it in the way they actually physically work it. And you're born into that responsibility. It's not a choice. You're born into it. In our system in Arnhem Land, you go opposite your mother. So you follow your father. But other nations can follow both or follow either. I'm not too sure what the other nations who use the system follow. But in Arnhem Land, where I grew up with the system, you follow father opposite to your mother. And once you come into one, that's what stays with you for the rest of your life on this earth plane at this time. It stays with you. And what happens, I had a beautiful little thing I thought I'd be able to bring to help me teach this system, but unfortunately I haven't got it, so I'll do the best I can without the visual aid I usually have. And with this diagram here now. Now, how big it is on this showing is that's the two sisters down at the bottom end here. You can see that saw-like star there, that's Sun. Now next to the Sun is her sister, the Earth. And then at the opposite end is their husband, the Moon. And he spends equal time with both, energetically and consciously, and is ready to be of service to either one. And when we talk business of making boys into men, we teach the Moon Chokapa, the Moon law, gentleness, responsibility, caring, integrity, honesty, all the good little things, you know, humour. It brings in all of those, kindness, patience. Those are the virtues which we look into our boys, and then we come under the teachings of the Moon, because that's the law the Moon is set up for, to be of assistance to the two female consciousness of super energy, which is Earth Mother and Sun Mother. Because in our system the Moon is male, and he just stands there quiet, silently, but ready to do whatever either mothers want done and support them. And they make their request and he meets it. He controls the whole of the fluid of all living, from the higher the water mark, the ocean, which is a great tidal magnetic shift in many countries. Ours in Australia is huge, so you can really see the effect the Moon has on that. And those shifts determine the condition of all our water food sources. All the animal creatures living in the ocean around Australia can be in good or bad condition depending on the position of the Moon, and it affects it has. And all the plants the same. All the plants right throughout Australia is affected by the Moon. Our wet season, our dry season, all that. Everything is here. And so he's at one end, and the two female forms are standing to get at the bottom end, just as a guide, you know, how simply. And the land carer, we'll put this one here, say as a doer, this one here, the land carers. When you see this really in practice is when someone dies in our community. Say the death occurred from that mob, Yiricha. This one is Dua, that one over there is Yiricha. Yiricha people stop immediately to mourn with the family. And we have set up a sorry camp where these people who have just lost their loved one, human being, gather. And the Dua people quickly get the mess around. Set up camp for them, bring the firewood, bring the foods, get up water, make sure they're there. Make sure they got all the tents, all the blankets, all everything, bedding they need. So you've got this sorry camp where the whole community is supporting those who have just lost a loved one, close relatives. After coming into this world, it's a beautiful, natural, joyous occasion. The entering out of it is quite a sad one. Quite a sad one. And the sadness, where the joyousness of receiving the new child into the world, into the family, is really noisy, happy family. This one too is a lot of wailing, a lot of sorrowing. And if I arrived at any of the communities and I saw everybody painted in white clay, I know a death has occurred, straight away. And I whisper, who passed away? And they'd say the name and whisper. Because the moment you go into that death thing, you become your name is sacred. Your whole being of who you was is totally sacred. And we cannot speak your name, and we cannot have any records of you being on this earth plane in our house. That's how sacred you've become. In the many thousand of years my people lived at, or you will not find one tombstone, not one grave, because you have really gone out of this life. You've really left. You've gone back to the sacredness of your sacred being. And we've mourned the parting. With the ceremonies have been performed, you will be totally released of any responsibility on earth ever again. And you have the total freedom to do what you have chosen in your spiritual essence to do what needs to be done there. Not preventing you from coming and going if you want to. We believe that a spirit can choose where they want to be any time of their life, any place, any time. Our culture teaches us that, and we believe that to the degree that when I lost my wife, my second wife, she passed away unexpectedly. All our wedding photos, all the photos of us holding the children, having fun with the children, wedding snaps and all that type of stuff, straight away, family members came into the house, and they disappeared. In one day, her clothes were shifted straight over the wardrobe. Her personal belongings was gone, out, and put away. Her name wasn't spoken. It's a different culture to the English culture. It is so almost opposite. Her body was flown back to the home she came from. A big ceremony was there in this way, and buried next to her family members of hers who lived there. She was a South Australian girl, I was a Northern Territory man. Two separate. And one side looked, buried her, that's it, I walked away. But I hung on to her for quite a while. I was lonely. And then I missed her, and I was listening to this click, click, click of high heel shoes, walking up the door after she jumps out of the car and in up a cement track waiting. And it came to me, oh my God, I'm still hanging on to her. You know. I rang my family up north, and I said, I feel like I don't want to go to my wife. They said, you can't feel that. It's not way. It's not your time. So they said, we'll sing the things that need to be sent down to you into this little model thing we've created. We'll call the family together and have a meeting, and then we'll sing. And they sent that down. And that was sent down to me to help me get over my grieving, and it worked. But in this mass grieving in the communities, it happens right throughout our people in the north. We still do that. Our funeral takes about 2 weeks. Especially if a sorry camp has been set up. And you don't break it until the body's been placed in the ground. One side would do all the work, as I mentioned, and the other side would just sit down and mourn and give them the right to do so. Right up to that whole burial period. Once the body has been put in, there is a time of settlement to deal with matters that may not have been dealt with during the lifetime of the person we've just buried. So a big community meeting like us is called like this, and then the question is asked, is there matters that need to be settled while we are still here? Because the one we've just buried is no more around to settle any businesses that hasn't settled, but her family's still here, or his family's still here. And and that offer is given out 3 times. And someone can say, yes, there is an issue. Yeah. And then they raise the issue. And then I say, and what are you requiring of this now that you raised it here? Because everything must be buried with the person that's just gone. I want a payback for that. Which is to do with a spearing of my father by that one's, say it was a woman which is buried by her brother. The young male family will say, they stand up. Which one of us do you want to accept the punishment? And we say, I'll do it. The one will say. Then the men who went through business together will say, no, I'll do it. No, I'll do it. You've got the strong bond of the business or initiation which unites boys as men, that they'll take each other's punishment, even if it's to the level of dying. When you grow up in that system, you can't help but how strong these spiritual connections and how real it is. It is so real. And at that, from life to death, you've born into one or the other, and they both support each other. I've picked the worst situation possible, the death, the dying, where total commitment has been practiced right through, but you see it in operation when there is settlement of issues which hasn't been dealt with during the lifetime of that one person. Because when everybody leaves that ground after the ceremony of cleansing is finished, bang, that name is so sacred no one will ever speak again. The memory of the person is no longer in existence, and the name is never ever spoken. Now that's only one little aspect of Aboriginal culture which very few people understand. I'm telling to you because you people are so spiritual. Thank God for that. You have a closeness here which can really do things. All you got to do is desire the good you want done and action it. Don't just think about it, talk about it, but action it. And you can have your centre like this where you can have people with these kind of teachings from all over the world coming and sharing. And I've always seen Norway as the place where your connection to country is so real. I've always felt that. I've always seen it through the many pictures I look at constantly, through the National Geographic magazine, when I see these snow high mountains and the forest and the deers and the other big animals here. I said, wow, one day I'd like to go there. Not knowing when that would be, but here I am talking to you about it. But going back again to these energy concepts we threw at the thing. Now, this is not only for humans. Humans only is one part of it. But every living thing comes under one or the other. And now coming back to the human, this is the guidance for marriage. You can only marry the opposite. The Yiricha, that one on the left, the Dua on the right, is right for each other. A male and a female in this line here cannot marry Dua. They cannot. They're not allowed to, and they will not. They cannot. Have to marry the opposite. And the opposite is determined actually up there. We follow that male line. And there's units. And this applies to every living plant, every bird, every reptile, every fish, every crab, every fly, every insect. Same system. And it's amazing how many of those creatures apply it. We just don't study them enough. When you do study them, you find out they know exactly what they're doing. You start watching them and learning them, and they know exactly what they're doing. And that's the natural law I believe, with that spirit, keeps the spiritual connected to the whole of the universe as that main number one relationship, which is our right. And if we can get these point across to our children and their children, and they also see the value of knowing their place here and the responsibility that is theirs, because their responsibility is to care for each other like ours is. That's the first law that was given. You care for each other. And to the level of what I use when we use the word Kanyini. Because Kanyini means caring, unconditional love with responsibility. That's one word, Kanyini. Combines those two words, English words, into one, Kanyini. It's a beautiful word. When you listen to it, it's a beautiful word to say it, but it's the most beautiful if you live it. And it's amazing how living Kanyini, you can establish a relationship with every living thing so easily. Because all the living things that are out there, which are your brothers and sisters, your mothers and fathers, your grandparents, your uncles and aunties, in a different form, they, here in this water, big ocean swimming, your families are swimming down there. But they're not looking like you. They look like themselves, what they're meant to be. And those on the guys on the hill over there, that family on the hill, all those trees up there. Every morning, I love coming here because I look at them and first and I say, how are you guys today? Look at those trees on the hill. And so they're, oh, good to see you again. Yeah, when are you going to come up to us? Walk amongst us. I said, I don't know, you're a bit high up there. And Pam hasn't given her a motorcar to drive up there to you guys. Maybe next time. But that's just with this energetic line which relates every single living thing to each other, that is taught to all our children. And from these two different lines, you know which family is responsible for what ceremonies, songs, designs, and laws of behavior and relationship. It was the basis of how we live on this earth through these, they are the two energy, which is the basis of our teachings. And the parents and other family members are responsible to pass these teachings on to each generation. And they teach with that 4 lines of teaching methods and style. Tell the story. Sing the story. Dance the story. Paint the story. Repeatedly, constantly, till you live it without requiring any books or pen and paper, because it is part of your whole self. It is part of your whole self, and you naturally live that life. And you can't help but love every single person you see, and every single fish you see, every single tree you see. You can't help it. Because all you're meeting is your own family. And when you grow up in that system, that's how it feels. That's how it feels. It is that, if you can reconnect with knowing which one is you, you know. Because the tree, Yiricha, the turtle Yiricha, the whale Yiricha, the bird Yiricha, the kangaroo Yiricha, whatever, is all related. And to all the human Yiricha. And the same with the doers. Are all doers. They're all one doer, energetically relationship with God. So let's go right back to that beginning of relationship. That's why we strongly believe in relationships. And how it comes about is the totemic creatures created the topography of what we see today, given assistance by the good workers. You know, the sun, the rain, the wind, the earthquake, the volcanoes, all of that, the hard workers who dug them up around, you know, boom, boom, boom. then the soft winds and rain and heat and cold soften it a bit and trim the sharp edges, and over a period of time they build a land that's easy to live on for us. And with that, everything will apply the song, the dances and the art to pass those teachings on, and then our students are expected to pick that up and apply it as well, and continue the relationship story to all other living things. And so I thought I'd introduce that as a start off so that you can look for this connection. If you're a husband and wife, you are opposite. One is Yiddish, one is Tua. So that's a good beginning. And then you might find other ones. You know, it's good to see what used to be. Yeah, if the old, traditional people of this country had a similar kind of system. They sometimes say, oh, you're similar to the yin-yang of the Asians. I said, could be. I don't know, because I don't know enough about that system. But if it's saying the same thing I'm saying, then it must be the same. You can't, yang can't marry yang, they gotta marry the yin. Yin-yang, or opposite. And if it's like that, but that's ours, that's the Aboriginal system I've just introduced you to in Australia, which I think most of our nations follow, but I know definitely mine does, us Anamu from the Central Australia Desert area, as well as the Yolngu in Arnhem, which is the one I got this one from, because that's where I grew up learning this system. And once I knew which line, following my adopted father, my father adopted me as his child, then I had to carry his line. So I knew I had to be opposite to his wife, who I classified as my mother. And of course then the brothers taught me all the other details, growing up as a boy, of other members who were non-humans of the family. Well, any questions?
My name is Dag, P-A-G. It means day in English. I wonder how I should relate to the non-living things. Could I like my car, for instance, just a little bit?
Motor car?
A motor car, yeah. Yeah, you have the home down at the Nagura.
Yeah.
And that is a house, for instance, or a flat or something you own. But how do I relate to my car?
Whatever way you decide, that's your choice, not mine. It's so easy, honestly. I've seen pictures of a man marrying his motorbike, and I couldn't believe it. His decision. It was in a magazine, Post magazine. I said, you've got to be joking. I would have liked to have heard how that motorbike said, I do. But I wasn't there. Post and advertised it. It showed it. Guy marries a motorbike. So if you got that kind of like for it, then so be it. All I say, look after your car, and it'll look after you.
Thank you. Though I didn't think about marriage.
And it had to be opposite to you remember? You had to decide out.
Okay.
You two couldn't be on the same side. You had to be
I
opposite.
understand.
My name's Carl. I come from New Zealand originally, and many years ago, I'm of course not good about Australia originally, so this thing that I've been a clown in many years, and on the street, and living as a clown and working as a clown.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And but I remember at one stage when I was telling people a story about Aborigines, but I'm not sure if it was true, that in some caves they found paintings on walls with planets that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. And the explanation the Aboriginal gave for these paintings was that they could go out to this planet through dolphin dreaming. So have I been lying or what? This dolphin dreaming and...
I'd say, I think you could just listen to what that story person is telling you, and maybe it's his dreaming, He's thinking this is what he'd like.
I'm not even sure where the information came from.
Oh, okay.
Exactly, I could have made it up myself, actually.
What you have from on our paintings is a bird's eye view of art. Our people always draw the art from looking it down from up there. And that's all our paintings are done like that, which is of the patterns of the land. An average person in Australia can only paint their own country, tell their own story, dance their own dances, and that's very restricted and well-known rule. If I wanted to paint, you may have heard Albert Namajar Aranda, big famous painter in that English style of painting. That way is all right. Anyone can paint that way, but for that traditional type of painting, you have to get permission from those people who own that story. That McDonald Range Hills, which runs from east to west in Alice Spring, is the caterpillar, Jukopa or Ojara. And if I wanted to paint that caterpillar, and they have beautiful colours, travelling through country, I have to get an Aranda person's permission. And we are so strict with what we can or cannot do. But I know if that person told you a true story, but it'll be only from his group of people's story, and whether he meant it as a fun thing or a thing that... I love clowns, I'll tell you. I've had him in our church, and he was our minister. But he was also our clown at every party. He was a beautiful minister. I think you guys are number one. We should have more of you everywhere. In every operation theatre, when they put the convalescent in room, when you have the theatre, then you go into the room, there should be a clown there telling stories. Because the best healing starts with a laugh. Then you get the healing starting with the laughing. And I reckon there's no one better than a clown to get that going, that energy, healing energy kickstart. Any other questions for this one? Okay.
I get so curious about the morning practices you talk about.
Yeah.
And when you say that you are not allowed to say the name, but if you miss that person very much, or I have two questions actually. I have that, what you do when you miss that person very much and want to share that with another, how do you name it? And while you have been here, there has been big debates in Norway about being close to the dead and having a relationship to dead people and blah blah blah, lots of things. I don't know if you've heard about it. And the church say you can't do it, and the princess has courses to talk with the dead and things like that. And so what do you think about this, having a relationship to the dead person, feeling its support and its that the dead person supports you and talks to you and guides you?
Oh, wow. Yeah. The dead person is not the finish. It's a new beginning. And they can come back to you anytime they want to, or you desire them to, but we say, our culture believes you must allow them to go on to do other things. That's all. Because sometimes why our people paint white clay so they don't recognise the family they were attached to while they were here. And because they too may not want to leave. And then they can get irritable, they're trying to contact you and they touch you and they can't. You can't communicate anymore. And they're trying to get your attention and you can't see them because they're invisible, they're not there anymore. Just their mind. And it's a different way of being. But they can work at it until they can get you to feel their presence, and to almost a level that you can almost see an outline of figures, but not clearly, but you kind of got the sense who it is. I have that experience when my mother gave me the song, My Brown Skin Baby. I said, her spirit came and sat beside me. And I just knew it was her straight away. Lucy said, son, I've got him a song for you. And that's it.
But if you miss a person, can you say, I miss her, I miss this?
Do I know that experience? No. They may come, they may not. Honestly, it's up to them. They may not. But you have to, because you've got that missing as being part human. That loss is there. They may not see even a loss. They're saying, why is she crying? I'm here, you know, in that. But it can't tell you that, you know. Because that communication really does finish off at that point between us in the physical and the spiritual. But I've got amazing stories happening. That the one I've got to share with you is a grieving man who was down south when his family, a mother or father, died at Millingimby. I was a counsellor in Darwin with the Uniting Church, and I was the guy who was had to counsel this person because he said, I was too late. I'm 4 weeks late. And the ministers brought him out to my house, and I said, okay, let's just think about it. And an amazing thing happened. I'll never get this up. In fact, it's amazing giving an opportunity to share what comes up when the time requires something to happen. And we started in a state of prayer. Being a church counsellor, I started in a state of prayer. But then I started in English, and then I spoke into a Yolima language I'd never ever spoken in my life. And he stopped and he looked at me. And my kid came and tapped my shoulder. They too was hearing me speak in this language. I opened my eyes, I looked at him, he looked at me. And my kid said, Daddy? Yes, baby. What you saying? I said, I'm just talking to this man's father. He died. But you're speaking another way. She brought me back to reality by just coming up, touching me like this. And this man looking at me. She said, and he said, Bob, my dad spoke to me through you. I can't explain that one. And now I feel really good. He said he understood where I was. And he understood that he couldn't make it back in that time. That was a really amazing one for me. That happened to me there at my house in Darwin. For this Ngimbi man who was really feeling bad because he hadn't gone back when his father died to be with the family. Does that answer your question? What's the second one? Did you have a second one? Maybe
no,
two.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more on the here to do it? Okay.
Yeah, I think that when we here have, I at least have different recognizing who is who of in our society, because we don't do the dances or take care of the land. We do everything together, so it's kind of hard to apply it on here.
See, your environmental people and parks people can be the land carers. You know, they could be the doer.
Yeah.
And then the you people in your spiritual realms can be the yiricha. Yeah. So, and probably everybody got it somewhere, but they just not recognise how we recognise it. See, we recognise really clearly, and because we're raised with it, we contain it, we keep it. And keep it familiar. Our kids grow up with this one, and they know exactly which one they belong to. As soon as the dance is being practiced by this mob here, the doer, all the doer kids know all the doer ceremonies. And if they want to, they'll just come and they'll just participate. You know, because they know it's the doer and it belongs to them. But the editor, they're going to say, oh, that editor mob can dance that one. And they're very strict on that as well, but you know, they're pretty free and easy.
But can it be that in life situations we can experience ourselves either as the doer or the other being the same? Because I am both. Sometimes in the necessity of the moment, I have to actually act upon something. And then I can withdraw. I was a monk for 7 years. So I was the spirit in that space of doing nothing, and yet I have to act upon when nobody is doing anything, so then I do. So I feel I have those two energies in me. And how do you look at that?
That's, once again, it really, I always like going back to self-choice is a right to every single one of us. Honestly. Yeah, and then it goes right into your thoughts, to right to your actions. It still comes back to self, and which is the next diagram on the show. We throw to that one. But our teachings teach us you can only belong to one or the other, and your responsibility lies with that, and you're born into that. So you can't change it. You've got a choice. You're going to be a bit of both, bit of that. But our way we go, you've got no choice. You're born into it, and it's fixed until you die. Yes.
You're Christian?
Eh?
Are you Christian because you
Of
go
course.
to United Church?
Yeah.
So, so how do you take, how do you sort of combine that, the spirituality of the Aboriginal people with the new Christianity? Because I have to say new.
No, ours is the old one.
Yeah, I know.
And the Christianity is the new one, but Jesus learned from us. And they won't say that so openly.
So, yeah.
And that's the teaching. The one of love is the one we like.
So
We
that's
don't
why
like
you
the
go to
indoctrination.
United Church?
So
that's why you go to church, because of
the love thing. That's where I worked, and I was working amongst. We had a big issue of our communities was miles out there. Then the people was coming to Darwin and getting into lots of trouble. So they said, Bob, will you look after them? And that's how I started to help them, you know. And with no backup for quite a while. I couldn't get government funds. The church didn't have funds. The church was very poor when they used to be there.
now they have lots of money.
And it was me and my work. And a lot of the songs I proposed was a lot of our girls come in really trusting the word of the white guys. Beautiful looking white guys. With a car, flash clothes and money. Wow. And our mob come from a community where you got nothing. So this guy said, oh, I'll buy you a meal. I'll buy you a dress. I'll buy you jewellery. I'll buy you shoes. Oh, you're a really good man. And they ended up being pregnant. And they come to me. I had to set up places where I could look after these single mothers. No mentor. Then the men used them and dumped them. Because the Christian teaching taught us to trust everybody. And we just assumed everybody knew that love. The way to be kind, the way to have integrity and be honest. And don't speak liar words. I love you. Don't say I love you because you want to abuse somebody. But that I love you is the reality of loving. In its honourable, most honourable way of loving. That's the love I'm talking about. Our kids were so tricked. Our beautiful girls were so tricked. best I could. And that's the period when I composed so many songs on their behalf. But we got that. They were old ladies now. Yes, I'm an old man, so.
I think she also wondered which religion.
Hey?
I think she also wondered which religion you.
Oh, yeah, I'd say that
Not really, but
I like the love, and if Jesus' teaching got love and living love, yes, I love that one, and I like that, and I live that one. But my tradition was born with the Kanyini principle, which is again unconditional. Oh, unconditional love. Your love got to have no condition. And it expands to include the plants and the animals, which I haven't heard any Christian teacher telling me that. Okay.
I just wonder if there are white communities or people who practice this kind of system in their own way, sort of, or is it, is it protected by the Aboriginal communities?
When you live there, you will establish a brotherhood with another Aboriginal man. You know, say you met him there and you became like a brother to him. This becomes, his sister becomes your system as well. And so, when the ceremony for one is being held, and you participate with the ceremony with him if you want to. It's always a question of wanting to. If you don't want to, that's okay too. It's not a force you need to, but once you join that brotherhood on his, then you only can belong to his side. It can be restricted. Your choice of belonging to both we and nothing, you can't do that. It's very strongly one or the other. Is that what you're asking?
No, in a way also that if you can, does it have to be practiced within Aboriginal community system, or is it the system that can be taken into other cultures?
Yeah, all I'm sharing with you is my where I grew up and learned this system here, which was with the Yolngu nation at Galamapur.
Is that only because of that?
But I think I would be at all surprised if most indigenous had this system. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Especially ours came about by the choice of the spirit of the conception and birth site, which on the contours the creators, every living thing on that track, which is sometimes 100 miles wide, hundreds of miles long, crisscrossing Australia all directions. They are all related because of that one totemic animal or snake or bird or creature that created the topography of the land we're seeing today. That snake, Gunya, she came in from the direction of the sunrise, and I would be all surprised if it came in from the Gold Coast. Now, wherever she travelled, heading towards Uluru, where she took up residence, every single one of those nations are related to each other. If she left her energy tracks that is carried on by stories, songs, dances, and art. Even though their section, each nation's section, is in a different language. If they kept passing it on from the old people onward. When I went to Lardil, Mornington Island, which is in the Gulf, outside of Queensland, they were still wearing the designs my father's grandfathers used to dance with. From the helmet, the body designs, feathers and plants designs. I was amazed, and I said, "You're more dancing like my father. Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Uluru." He said, "Oh yeah, same people." That snake, that same story. Make us one family. Amazing. And it's that relationship system with all living, us as human, keeps us so close and caring for each other. And that's the kind of way I think we should be all living, so that we're caring for our waterways, caring for every plant and every creature that lives here with us, and especially with each other. There'd be nothing better than Australia, than every single person when they meet each other, they have time to speak to each other. Even if you've just met her for that instant, while he's taking the bus or whatever. When I went to Sydney from where I live, I promised myself I'm going to make a friend. Every time I catch that train, it wasn't long before I knew everybody was travelling in the whole of the train. Travelling to Sydney and the drive from Sydney back up to the Blue Mountains. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. It is so easy. And what surprised me as I shared this with others was how often we'd almost bumped each other in other countries around the globe. Either in other states around Australia or in other places throughout the world. Oh yeah, I was at Hong Kong then. You know, when you start talking to people. So really, you know, we can really meet each other anywhere.
Did you make a documentary? Was that a film you made?
This one?
No, a documentary is called this one or not?
Yeah, Kanyini.
In 2007?
Kanyini, that's the one I was just showing in the schools.
I read about that in Sydney.
Yeah, Kanyini. Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, I read
4
about
years
it
ago.
in
Yeah, that's the one.
Daily then.
Yeah, that's the diagram which shows you, you know, and the country. And really, it isn't a house, this one. It's an energetic connection. An energetic connection to a place where you like. That's what this is really. It's not a house. It's Ngura. And you can see watches there, which is family, the Kurinpa, and the Chukupa. Okay, we'll switch.
You said earlier that you couldn't paint someone else's country. Is that right?
Yeah, without permission.
I've seen a lot of Aboriginal paintings many places around the world, and many of them are not painted by Aborigines.
Oh, I don't know that.
How do you look at that when someone is taking something from your culture and use the dot paintings in even if it's not your country they are painting, maybe it's their own country they're painting, but they do it in your traditional way. How do you look at that when it comes to unconditional love?
Look at it. Thank goodness they're doing it. They must like it. That's got to be.
So you think it's okay
Yes.
for people to
Yes.
use the dot paintings
Yes.
in that way?
But in amongst ours, where we are, it can be guided. And it used to be very much so. But when other people do it in other countries, man, I just love it. It doesn't worry me in the least. In fact, I think each of our countries' culture and way of doing things, if it's for the better good of mankind being drawn closer together, should be the one we use and encourage to be used, including our languages, and especially our songs and dances, and sharing our artwork. I think it's really good for all of us to see the difference and see it. It needn't be a separating factor, but one that's comparative and appreciate the differences in it. You know, as I say, the most beautiful thing ever created is just hold up a mirror in front of you, and it's the uniqueness of who you are that is so special. There is not one other living thing like you. There's no fish like you, there's no marsupial like you, there's no tree like you. You are unique, and you are the only one with that beauty you have in the whole of the universe. And it's in your uniqueness that's that. You know, that's where the beauty of this way of seeing the world with love-based, community-based philosophies, and especially. And honestly, I've got to be really careful because I fall in love with everybody so easily. Hey, Barbara.
Well, I say.
I have a question about this. So how do you choose your mate with this system? And how do you look at conception?
Oh, yeah, opposite.
Yes. How do you choose? Do you choose it yourself?
There's the old traditional way where your spouse is chosen for you by your parents before you're born. So you don't have to worry in the least. You've got to pick from Tony, Johnny, Bill. They're all there.
And how do you look at conception?
That used to be the old way, but the church said we couldn't use that system. We have to let each in.
How's the old way?
Eh?
The old way. How is the old way?
That's why I said the promise system. When you have a little girl, I want your girl to be promised to my son. Now you haven't even come into this world yet, but it was promised by your mother and your father. It's a promise system. And when the person, adults, you made that promise to have a little boy, and they made that promise to them that the girl they had would want, and you already did. That's why we call it the promise system. And it's a non-worrying system. You already don't have to, oh, will they like me, will they not me? No, they just already put together. And the closer you're together, the more often you're together, you get to love each other. And it's a committed love for the rest of your life.
So when two young people, they are committed to each other?
Yes.
The co-creation, the conception, is it a ritual or is it like also no worries, it happens when it happens? How do they co-create together?
In that promise system?
Yeah, when they grow older and they are men for each other, they get married, how do they get children? Is it something chosen? Is it something...
Well, the same way.
In the same way, so no worries?
Same way, if they decide they want children, yeah, they'll have a close relationship and make love and have children if they're lucky. A conception will take place and they'll have a beautiful baby. And then they might even promise, they may have promised that baby to someone else. In the old way, that's how it used to be. But the missionaries put a stop to that too, as well as, we must only have one wife now.
Did you have more before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. All the sisters have the one husband, or share each other's husband. And all the brothers share each other's wives. But it's mostly not to have children or to have sex, it's mainly to be responsible for their welfare. And it comes in really handy when a woman loses a husband unexpectedly. Already she knows exactly which brother's going to look after her and the children. That's what it's set up for that very reason. And if you ever see an opportunity, try and look at a film called The 10 Canoes. You got this young boy waiting for his older brother to pass away or something, because he had a young wife which he was attracted to, and he was hoping his older brother will give him that young wife, and he's wishing, oh, come on, bro, you remember. That older brother said, no, you don't deserve it, no, you're still too good. 10 Canoes, if you have a chance. It's a good one, good funny fair comedy type film.
Think about the fact that the culture has been survived for 40,000 years.
Yeah.
It must have been a lot of consideration regarding not being inbred, for example.
Yeah, this is the system.
Yeah, so that takes care of not avoiding.
On the basis of the opposite, you have the skin, you got the biological relationship, you have the ceremonial relationship, which is exactly like biological, like blood relationship. If you went through law with other men, they become your brothers. And really, I mean brothers, in the real sense of brotherhood. If you have the same totem, again, you belong. You have a brotherhood line there with other men. And if you have what we call a skin system, which is another way of a relationship where you get your partner from, similar to this one, opposite. But out of the skin system, you get 3 other lines to take your wife or husband from. And they never ever close to you by blood. They really keep it well away from that. You can only marry your 7th cousin. We don't come any closer than the 5th or 6th. You know, it's kept way out with that system. And it's just termed skin system for like a biological one, but it's another line of relationship. And that's when we know exactly where I would see Barbara's, because I'm this, Barbara is that. She just automatically comes into that. And why? Because she's related to so many other, family members who are in that same line. So that sense of belonging is a reality, and it naturally works because you know exactly who you're responsible for, what you're responsible for, and what also has that same sense of responsibility for your well-being.
And Uncle Bob, would it be a different responsibility for the man and the woman? Because in Norway we seem to want to have equal, we want to be equal. Men and women want to be the same.
You can't.
So what's the responsibility in your tradition for the men and the women?
Yeah, you can't be you're not biologically made to be equal.
No?
You've got a different role with your body, and your husband got a different role with his body.
Yeah.
But you follow the earth and sun conscious. You love without condition. And that includes loving your husband without question. Because what makes it so important is the ceremony you two both did. You have to honour that ceremony. I don't know what your words were in the ceremony you had. Voluntary relationship is different. When you get married in that formal sense, then you're bringing in the spiritual entities into that. But it's the physical makeup which in our system gives the gender responsibility and gender roles. But in our place, Uluru, it's totally equal. But the roles and responsibility differs because of the physical makeup. And when we used to travel through country, the women would walk the direct route where the men would fan out like this and hunt, and then meet at the one given point they've decided to meet at.
I'm just wondering about the connection, the film The Rabbit Fence.
Oh yeah, rabbit fence, yeah.
Rabbit Fence.
Oh wow.
That connection, is that what it is?
Can you speak louder, Chris?
No, not really. Yeah, no, nothing. I don't know what I was asked about. I forgot.
You can tell the story about what happened in the Brown Skin Baby movie when Dorothy was late under the tree.
You mean knowing?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I've got to share this experience with you. This one Barbara's talking about. The ABC, I sang the song Brown Skin Baby. It changed the whole of the legislation Parliament had passed through in the 1990s, 1920s. In 1973, it took a lot of years. They took the hundreds of thousands of children away from their parents. But when that song was composed, a research worker came up to Darwin, and the filming, ABC, big film company, did all the filming up in Darwin with me in it. And then they planned to go down to Alice Spring and come up to this little community, Aaron, where we was taking a girl down from Darwin to meet her mother for the first time in her life. The camera crew flew down to Alice Springs. 2 days after they arrived, they were supposed to hire a car, drive up to Aaron and meet us there. We drove down from Darwin with a research worker and a camera crew in the car from Darwin. It took us one night camp halfway, Elliot, then the second day approaching Aaron, we saw everybody standing under a tree, looking our way. And we, there they are, they're already there waiting, because that was the idea. The idea was the camera crew round everybody up and they wait and they see me driving up in this car, you know, with this girl who hadn't seen her mother from the time she was taken away as a baby. So they could film the whole scene with the family, with the mother and father meeting her for the first time. But we pulled up, looked around, no camera crew. And I said, oh, well, I don't know what's going on. They're here. And I said, what you waiting for? They said, for you. I said, but how do you know I was coming? Oh, we knew. And the research worker said, wow, I've heard this non-Aboriginal people. This is my chance to find out how they do it. Bob, how did they know he was coming? And I said, how do you know I was coming? They said, when you were thinking about it, we didn't pick it up. When you was talking about it, nothing. We still couldn't pick it up. But when the moment you acted, we knew. And they just told us, they just told everybody that you want us to wait up this tree.
Yeah.
Where that film crew? What film crew? An hour later, the film crew drive up. They broke down. He's seen it firsthand. And he witnessed it, you know, that how it happened. And then he just asked everybody, and they said, oh, it's too easy. When you reach that level of the actioning and people are thinking of you, you just pick it up just like that. Yeah. And it works with everything. It's really beautiful. Well, the two energy lines took a lot of time, eh?
Well, I'm wondering, Norway is supposed to be one of the most sort of gender balanced, equal rights for women and women in leadership positions, political positions. What place does Kanyini have in Norwegian society?
Total love, basis love for the, especially for couples. That's where they can really apply it. But it means making sacrifices sometimes, and really having lots of talk on issues that is disturbing to each one at different times. So what are the real issues? And being able to really talk about it and see if you want to stay together. Remember, it's just as good to separate. As long as you don't kill each other and hurt each other, you know, and feel bad about it. It's agreeing to doing what is best for both of you. And the children will adjust to that. I was a counsellor, that's my profession when I was with the church, as I mentioned earlier, and I was the bad counsellor because I didn't hesitate. First thing, when a couple was sent to me by the other church ministers and all the other workers in our church, big church in Down, and I said, you guys having sex? Haven't had sex for weeks, months. I said, well, why don't you separate? I said, why are you living together? Well, for our children. I said, are you really making your children happy? We don't know, we haven't asked them. I said, well, why don't you ask them? He said, they said, we have arguments every day, almost, on issues which are not even worth talking about. But we create it into issues that's because we just want to have an argument. They was in love with the argument, I think. And so I said, why don't you try trial separation? And the church said, Bob, your job is to try and get them together. I said, no. I said, I want both of them to be really happy, with or without each other. And I think that's what really is the basis of all our relationship. And don't feel bad about leaving your partner if your partner can manage without you. But don't be afraid of discussing the issues which are relevant to the relationship, because that's really important. And be honest, honestly, be honest and open about issues which are really of the concern, which is a threat to a relationship being maintained. What I find with my wife Barbara is we love each other so much, and it works. If you've got love in it, it'll overcome everything. If you haven't, you may have problems. You may have problems. So I say to every couple, the best thing you can do is really love. And try the level of Kanyini where there's no fault. And you don't look for faults, and you don't look for a reason to blame. You just accept. It's a beautiful way to be. And once we got with each other, it's that you're practicing for the wider world. And when the children come along, you learn to love them the same way. And you teach them to love the same way. And then you extend that out to the community. Till you can openly speak to anybody in the streets of Oslo. You can say hi, straight up to them. Your Norwegian people are very beautiful people, so don't let that beauty be swayed by you becoming shy like my people. My people are very shy. They're not used to talking to anybody at all, because we don't have visitors. We have so many visitors here. We're very lucky. I see these big ships come here every day. I think 2 or 3 of them pull in every day. There's a chance for you. You're meeting people from all over the country, all over the world, which is so good. Yeah.
Can I ask you another question?
Okay.
About going walkabout.
Okay. That's a crazy one. What used to happen, when a death occurs in a community where there can be a cattle station, you just get together, your family have died 100 miles, and you just pack up your gear and you head down.
Okay. Is that where it comes from?
That's one.
That's one.
And the other one is ceremony. If your boy is reaching, say, first ceremony at 8 or 12, and it's due on you're reaching the 3rd full moon, which was organised a year ago, and the ceremony comes first. You just pack up and go.
Do you know where walkabout?
Yes.
When do they go walkabout?
To attend ceremony or funerals.
The same.
But today is really drive about. or fly. But that's how that term came. Because our mom would just get up and walk. Sorry, boss, we're going. And the boss saying, what? Who's going to muster my cattle? We'll do it when we come back. That'll be right. The cattle can eat more grass, get more fat, and we'll get more money for it at the market, But they undermined that because they didn't understand the reason. Because we're committed to our ceremonies and our loyalty to family members who've lost loved ones. That's the 2 I told you. They're really serious reasons to attend and support each other at those 2 very important times. It's real, and you have probably times when you should support your friends and become really strong in your relationship with each other.
What kind of system do you have in traditionally in the societies for wrongdoings? When people do something wrong, when people hit or...
Severe. I do, when I'm teaching the police, I talk about offences and the punishment for offence, and ours is really hard. The English system is so soft. It's like you're being paid and they look after you for committing crimes. Ours was, there was the major offences like wrong sex. A man having a sex with a girl who he got no right to have sex with will die.
Who kills him?
Die. And that man knows that. What happens? The knowledge of the punishment for the crime is taught to all the children while they're growing up, and all the young men, young girls while they're growing up. So they know, before they commit a punishment, what sort of, they know about what crimes will get what sort of punishment, so they go in and commit those crimes knowingly, and they will be treated. And it's really hard for the men. I don't know too much about women's punishment.
But do you have a kind of court system, or if people say, no, I didn't do it?
No, the court system consists of the family of the wronged person against the family of the perpetrator.
But
That's it.
follow Australian law, right?
English law, Australia
In
runs
the-
on.
yeah,
We
that's
don't
what I
take
mean.
ours into consideration.
No, but I mean like most Aboriginal people follow the English
English law, yeah.
law.
Well, we have to now.
Otherwise, we don't.
I tried to
Yeah.
apply, in the 80s to 90s I was running a legal service and I tried to bring in customary law. Because everybody was committing crimes so they could go into jail. You've got a 4-star hotel caring system, for instance, in Ellsbury. 4-star hotel caring. They wash your clothes, they make your bed, they give you food, they give you food at the table. Well, if you're out in the community, you've got to try and do that all on your own. And if you haven't got a good wife, you've got a problem. Or a good older brother, or a younger brother, groups of men who are staying together can share things. And so, the jail system is so nothing compared to our customary punishment for crimes being committed. Our punishment system prevented crimes, so we had very few criminals. Even in our legal system, when I run my defence criminal, in Alice Spring, because I had to defend them. Some of the old guys were coming from a community where I kept releasing a troublemaker, a bad man. These older men would come in and say, "Bob, you can do it again, you do the wrong thing." I said, "I'm a defence legal system, what do you want me to do? We don't want that man. He's causing too much unhappiness. And the crimes he's old and tired, he wouldn't be allowed to live." I said, "Oh, that's okay." I said, "I'll ask the judge to bring the policeman from that community in for training." So the judge would go out, you'd send a message out, "Oh, you police guys have to come in for training in Ellsbury for 1 week." And then I send my field officer, tell the old man to apply customary law to whatever this criminal's name is. And they send him then away for a long holiday. It is so beautiful that you can live in a community where no crime is committed because of the strictness of the system of maintaining law and order.
I have to get back to the walkabout.
Okay.
When you go walkabout, you go walkabout along a song line.
Yeah. If it's for ceremony.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've heard that even if you pass your country and the next country and the next country, right across Australia, where they talk a language that you have never heard in your life, it's along the same song line and you can recognize where people come from if you listen to the melody in the song. Is this correct?
Yes. And they sing it in another language, but it's the melody, the slang of the tune.
And these song lines, some of them do. I asked you this question in the other room the other day, and you said that some song lines are really short.
Really little ones. Randuluru are very short.
Yeah. But some others are crisscrossing the whole country.
The Kunya.
Continent.
Kunya can come from the Queensland sunrise coast, sunshine, to Uluru. Look how long that is, and how many nations that crosses. And there are others which travel. The Seven Sisters Trail goes up from South Australia right up to Gagaju, right up to Darhanama.
Do these song lines exist now, or do you just know that
they still exist, but the knowledge of it are getting lost when more of the old people pass away. So unless the young ones are picking it up, it's going to all go. softly too. Some people may be recording it in books, you know, which some people do. And when in West Australia, they take groups of women and men out to their country and they're painting it and they're singing the song lines while they're driving out in their Toyotas. And that's when you actually see, and then when they're doing the painting, if someone's there with a camera recording it, they'll do the song while they're doing it. From where that one started and where it is today, and where it might be ending. And some of them are hundreds of miles long, but the ones around Uluru are really short.
So if you know the song, you will always know where you are.
Yeah, your song is your title, deed and title to your country. Your song retains the position of your land, your family's country, like a deed and title through the song, the stories, the dance and the painting. It really is.
So if the song line can stretch all across the continent, then it must be a really long song if it describes the scenery on the way.
No, it only covers your country. You'll learn only what you're responsible for.
Okay.
You see, from your, say your eastern boundary to your western boundary. Following the Kanyini line, it comes from east to where Uluru is. And as it crosses your territory, that's what you've got. But you do have it in your own language. But you'll recognise the same song by the tune. Some tune will mark it. And of course, someone will have memory of it too. Because when I went to North Queensland, to the Lardil people, I just recognised the costumes and the helmets they were dancing with. And I said, you've got the same thing my fathers used to dance. They said, yeah, same story. And that was an island off Queensland. And I remember the dancers near Uluru then. Same costume. But our designs, what they used to dance on, was huge. It was big, huge, covered, big earth areas. And the last one I saw that big was in the 70s. I haven't seen any done like that in modern day. All you see now is on the canvas. The same story is put on canvas. I was supposed to go into the thing, but we better...
What is president?
I go to the next section of those in the circle and expand this one here. As I said, the responsibility of maintaining the Chukapa, Walcha, Mura and Purunpa, it comes and goes from self in every single way. And every responsibility is exactly the same. And you can see the diagram, what we do, what we call that big diagram we put on the ground. Yeah, we do a labyrinth when we are running at Kanyini Day. This big labyrinth is made on the ground. It's quite a horrific place where they got big property. And they put this labyrinth on the ground and then you can walk it and go to the... And the areas of where you're worrying, you can concentrate with your meditation. If it's family that are worrying, you can just go straight there. And you go on up on the left, down back on the left, you know. And into that, and then you keep, everything takes you back to self, because that's where the responsibility is. It goes right back to self. Self is responsible for everything we think, everything we say, and just everything we do is self, comes from self. And you're not expected to blame anyone else for anything. Everything is done from self. If you've got a good or bad relationship with any of the four concepts as I've discussed, which is the loss of all of those is what's affecting my people today. Our young people aren't connected as they used to be, as years ago we all used to be. And we've got enormous social problems. And it all, because once you're separated from those four concepts, you really have a problem. I have a problem. It took me ages to reconnect. And I had to go back home. Out of all the kids who was taken away from my area, I'm the only one who's gone home.
I remember an American woman went to Australia and she was taken away by, she went walking about with the message from down under.
Oh, that one.
And she did a lot of work with because of that, because she knew then, she knew what to expect. Do you know what happened to this work she did? Because it was huge at that time, in the 80s, right?
Yeah. I think I heard about the one. She got into trouble. It wasn't quite accurate. But I noticed when she wrote, the editorial or something in reference that she did mention some Aboriginal people she spoke to, but they were from the city, people she met down in Sydney and in Melbourne, and she also spoke to some anthropology guys who wrote about the Aboriginal songlines and storylines. She read those books, and then she wrote The Mutant Down Under, a book. But when I read it, I said, oh no, she's got it way out. I said, but she's a good writer. That's what I put it down to. She wrote a good story. That's all. But she didn't really do it. She had the wrong animals in the wrong country. And that's a really easy. You can't have koalas on Warlpiri country. They don't live there. They only live in the southern states, eastern states. Easy little things like that, mistakes, commonly made by someone who's heard something nice and thought to include it in the book they're writing and make it as my experience, and then she got into trouble, and with the Warlpiri, she exposed and talked about some ceremonies which she shouldn't have spoken about. So she had to withdraw and apologise to the Warlpiri Nation. But I know that book went really well, and it made people really interested in Aboriginal culture. Because me and her were both touring the United States soon after she wrote the book, and I was kind of just behind her. She would have just been in the town up there before me and went through and told her story with the books to the audiences of hundreds, And they said, oh, that girl was here. I said, oh, yeah. Have you read the book? I said, yeah, I read it. It's a good story. I said that. It's a good story. But any questions in any of these diagrams or anything? But we have it as a labyrinth on the ground, and we run this workshop for usually, in America today we're just doing it one day now. But at home it's run, it can be run a little bit longer at home. We still have to find a site where we got this even ourselves, but this is good seeing it. We just had this, designed this here, thank goodness. A very beautiful helper here.
So what did you say that is like that? What do they?
They were on the previous.
Oh yeah, right. The same. Okay. Yeah. I got it.
This is the one our psychologists use for working with our mentally ill people. The psychologists realise it's from the loss of 4 of those or any one of those that is really affecting our young people. They either overdose with drugs, marijuana, or other more modern drugs, or totally alcohol use, and really, quite often leading to suicide tendencies, with voices telling them, that a lot of the young people have problems today with that stuff. And we use, a lot of my mates who are psychologists now said, Bob, since we started using that, this really helps some of them to find themselves. Which is, thank goodness, Yeah. And
I just wonder if your people has been traditionally been using psychotropic plants or similar in the past, or still perhaps using it
for medicine?
Yeah, for medicine.
Many things, yeah. Still. We've just learned how to make it into the greasy medicine. We always had just a flute all in this natural way, but we can now make it and we sell it in our clinic.
I'm talking about plants so gave you special experiences.
One.
Just one?
The druggy one, yeah, the pidgery. We call it pidgery. Pidgery, that plant is like a druggy.
In what way was that?
More relaxed, happy, like marijuana. We don't tell too many people that. I took some people from the southern college up there, and I just happened to say that by accident. Oh, this is the one we use for making you feel really good. Oops. And then, then I said, and I broke a couple of leaves, and it's just like tobacco. It looks like the real tobacco. And I said, just try it. Don't take too much, because it can really give you a big headache. But you wouldn't believe it. You tell young people not to do this, and they'll do it. And so 4 of those kids next day couldn't even get up. They wanted to get a high, but instead of that, they got a biggest headache. They didn't know how to treat it, which is you dry it, then you add a powder to it from the gum tree, an ash powder to it, and then you chew it. They thought you could just get it from the plant and chew it. Nearly killed them,
So that's still kept legal. That's still a legal.
Oh yeah. How might we use it? Yeah, it's yucky. Yeah, yucky, chew it. When I was growing up as a kid, my auntie just wanted to kiss me, Oh, come on, my dad, And I loved every one of them,
About eating more generally, you love everything, you love all life, all the plants and animals, and then you have to eat, so you have to kill some of them.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Do you have rights to do that?
No. What you have, which is the level of the Kanyini principle, you should love so much that you will gladly offer yourself as a meal for the survival of another. That's the Kanyini principle of living life. Your ultimate goal is to give of yourself for another to live. And that's the way the whole of nature is geared for. That's the way it has always been. And that's how we're raised. But you appreciate every life you take from every plant that shares its fruit with you, every other reptile or marsupials, birds or others which you take of their life itself. And then you yourself, if you're taken by a crocodile or a shark, should not revenge that, but accept that as the way it is. Because we say to people, do not swim in this water. There's a big crocodile and sometimes it gets hungry. But if a visitor comes from somewhere and they see the sign and they said, I can't see any crocodile. That's the worst time to swim, when you can't see the crocodile. It's lunchtime and he's waiting there for lunch to swim and jump in the water. What we say, don't swim unless you can see the crocodile on the bank. But why should I get in the water with the crocodile on the bank? That's because he's the only resident crocodile there for a whole mile. And if he's on the bank, you know exactly where he is. So you can swim. You can keep your eye on him. But if he slides in that water and disappears, you come out of the water. Because he thought, I love this person. I'm going to make the best of this one. So, and comfort, we have some terrible experiences. We said, the crocodile is almost a sacred entity, because it comes from the creation period of what we term Chukopa in my country. Because it was the creator of all the children up there, and the land masses there, and is held in high esteem in ceremonies. And this crocodile killed a white man who was out there fishing. He was out there with his snorkel swimming around, then this crocodile came and grabbed him, ate him and killed him. And of course everybody in this new township got their guns and boats and spotlight and started to shoot all the crocs in the area. Our mob said, stop those people from killing our crocs. And the policemen went out then, because they got scared of the backlash they would have got from the Aboriginal people of that whole of that coastal area, Barnum. And they said, you killed that crocodile. You not killed it, you took it into Darwin. And they did. And they said, yes, we took it in, but we said, kill the man. That man shouldn't have been in that water at that time. He was told that crocodiles live there, and they like eating people who go in there.
Was it in the ocean?
Huh?
Was it in the ocean or in the...
Ocean.
Yeah.
In the ocean at Gove there, at the top there, of Yirokala. And they said, well, all we did was we just killed it and we skinned it and we stuffed it. It's in at this place in Darwin. They said, well, you need to bring it back. So the government had to fly the crocodile back, the stuffed crocodile this time, from here to, where that corner where Barbara is, big one. And the government had to march and apologise for killing the crocodile, Minister of the Northern Territory, while our people danced the welcome back to the stuffed crocodile. And all the kids was dancing with it, celebrating. And so we're slowly getting it into the system that our culture is inclusive of all living, and every living is so important and necessary part of our way of living, including these so-called, they're not bad animals, they're just misunderstood. If we could just understand that, don't swim when the crocodile's not there, because he is there, and he may be hungry.
What do you do with mosquitoes? You have one on your arm. Much them like you said,
Yes,
please.
you're allowed. The mosquito has agreed to that. The mosquito will try to get it and go before you hit it.
Okay.
That's the
Good
arrangement.
I'm a bit more interested in crocodiles still. I just saw a documentary that was where they have put the radio transmitters on big crocodiles, salt water. And they found out that they were actually moving not only up the river and along the coast, but they were actually moving out to some islands north of Darwin, and which I didn't know about. But maybe you knew about it, that they could actually swim far into the ocean and go out to the islands where people didn't know.
Wherever there's water, salt water they can go.
So it's...
but some are territorial, especially the ones in creeks. They're the ones territorial, and then the ones along the coast, some of them are territorial. But they'll only be territorial for about 1 to 5 mile area. And the big male one would be the one that would be the boss of that area, to mate with the female ones who live in that area. And usually they stay in the creeks, in the small creeks that go inland. That's where the female ones stop. If you say every year they'll have a nest where they'll have bobby crocs in the wet season.
About ceremonies, do you have ceremonies for what? For everything? For ages, time changing, seasons?
Yeah. Business, making boys into men is the good one, and girls into women. The women's stuff, that one. The women's themselves, they have lots of women's ceremonies. I'll be keeping you informed when they're happening, in case anyone want to join into that. Barbara, with my daughters, will be working those in as well with your group here, letting them know when they're on. People come from all over the world to participate. Especially the women's one, they're very popular. I'm in the process of hoping we can organise men's stuff too. I spoke to my 2 nephews, they'll be willing to run men's programs, including those serious matters for men. But we haven't had any group yet, or the WEF group, but we have to establish that group from here, you see, as a start of it, to develop that good close relationship between our men and the men here. And whether we can come over here and assist and talk with your carers here, the people who belong here, start to structure something. Because I reckon on the tracks of your migratory animals, it should be the line, the song lines one should take. If I was in Norway, that's the same thing I told the people in England when they asked me if they could renew the song lines or story tracks. I said, yeah, I'd base it on the migration of your animals when the ones who are moving winter and summer. You know, that one I said. The birds and creatures that move like that. The one to start off with. Identify the places they go to and then start creating the songs and dances for those places. I reckon it can be done. Me, I really believe in ceremony. And
Can I just add to that, Bob?
Huh?
Can I just add?
Of course you can. You understand that, my baby? We're hearing your voice, we're seeing that one.
I think the thing that that I'm seeing in the culture, especially with the, I can only speak to women's ceremonies, but what happens is because of this system, because of Kanyini, there's a real community of like-minded intention of like the Jukapa story says, to be in service to all that will be. So when women gather together, there's not competition, and there's such a strong sense of identity and belonging that it has no question. No one has any question about who they are, what country they belong to, or what their responsibilities are. And within that system of belonging and identity, that is so clear. It's just black and white. Everything is black and white. Something is either right or it's wrong. A way of behaving is either right or it's wrong. So you don't have this ambiguity we have in the modern world. And when women especially come together for the purpose of to be of service to all that will be, what it really means is that everyone gets the nurturing that women are born for. The love and the nurturing. The mothering, the grandmothering, the sister. And we all know that as women, what that feels like. And I think men all know what that feels like, hopefully, from some woman in somewhere. And so there's this system of, men know what their roles are. And women know what their roles are. And it's all a give, love, nurture, contribute to this bigger thing. And within that is the most profound respect. And that's why I feel so blessed to have you as my husband, Bob, and partner, and Napaji, mate in the world, which means walking together. So the question about men's roles, women's roles, how can Kanyini inform Norway, what does all of this mean here? It really does just boil down to that, going back to self. Because love, in the end, is just a state of being. And in that state of being, if it's real love, because I was in a couple of different marriages before this one, and there's a lot of language about I love you, but we all know what feels like love and what doesn't. And love is truth, open truth. Love is not fearful. Love is profound respect. Love is without condition. If it has condition, it's not love. And this is a culture that when women get together in these ceremonies, everyone knows all these things. And so all it's about is honoring spirit and bringing that dance and that song and that togetherness to animate and keep alive the spirit. And it brings us so close together when we do that. And it's just a beautiful way of being. So, you know, it's an ancient teaching, but it's so practical, and it's so universal, and it's so, I think, something we've always known, and always do know, and we get little snippets of it, you know, in modern culture, but we don't have the cultural framework that keeps it together, because we don't have the ceremonies, we don't have the relationship within our family structure where we totally trust the elders to hold the law and to pass down the knowledge. Our elders have forgotten because their elders have forgotten, or they were colonized, or something happened in the lineage to cut them away from that. And here we have all these teachings that are coming in with the monks, with, you know, with you, Bob, with the shaman, and there's such a generosity of sharing. They love to share. They love to make the family bigger. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. You got a clap stick? You got a didgeridoo? You got a didgeridoo? This song, I don't think I've sung it here before, but I'd like to sing it tonight. It's I love to dance, I love to sing. I want to be happy with everything, and that's it. That's it. Yeah, the G. Gota ngaraki, I want you, I love you. Gota ngaraki. Gota ngaraki ngara, gota ngaraki ngara. Gormat me, dirting orang. Gota ngaraki ngara, gota ngaraki ngara. Gormat me, dirting orang. for every single one of you for making our visit here such a beautiful memorial one. We'll be remembering this, and I'll be sharing it with all my people, especially when I get back home. I said to my son when I rang him up this morning, I said, son, you wouldn't believe the didgeridoo players here. They are really great. And there's so many of them. You know, they flat out, hey, you're going to back me up in my band? I'm going to say, well, any didge players here? You flat out getting anyone put up their hand, you know. Norway, wow. You pick of the best. Almost the best in the world, I reckon. You're as good as any of the greatest I've heard at home. And I grew up in Yiddish country. And thank you all so much. I honour your sacredness, and we really appreciate your presence. That's all of our presentation. And we hope that there'll be many more of it in the future. And many other cultures that can be shared. And if this is where it can start it as a cradle to begin something beautiful, and it'll grow, you know. I think it can happen here with all of our support. I wish you well, and I wish you peace, and I love you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Well, I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of all of us. Saying goodbye, let's just see this so I have to practice that one for next time. That cheers me up to think about you coming back. I think you'll always be with me. It's like when we meet forever. And that connection was there. So God bless you, and God bless Kanyini, Barbara. We will be so close, that's what we always say. Whether you like it or not, the vibration will hold us. So thank you on behalf of everyone, and thank you all for coming. Welcome back, and stay in touch. And thank you,
Rolled my tongue until I met Bob. And the first workshop I went to, you sang that song and looked right at me.
And she said, I can't do my... I said, well, I'll tell you how you sing it. So I started kissing her. I said, now do it. And she went...
Storyteller.
It's a workshop idea.
That's a lot of sound. So you do it as often as you want. Yeah, Diddy doesn't. Did stand that up. Guys, he's playing Diddy make it.
I see you.